Is this thing on? Hey everybody, it's Cory Ballad, and I'm back again. And today I'm going to talk about another episode of Rock Legends. Before I get started with this video, we're going to do all those good things, people. What is it? Subscribe. Subscribe, like the video, share the video, comment on the video. Visit my blog, corysong.blogspot.com. Follow me on social media. That's Cory Ballad. It's on Twitter. It's Cory Ballad on Instagram. It's also on my second Instagram, Cory Ballad Poet on Instagram. Then I'm on Tumblr. Yeah. So I'm going to try another new thing again today. Have a makeshift, a tripod. Makeshift tripod up here. I kind of like the light right here. And I like doing the videos right here, but I was holding my phone and stuff, so hopefully this can be a little bit more stable. I'm holding my paper, and I was doing some videos on the other side of the room with the best lighting in the room, I think, but there's nowhere for me to sit my phone down, so I had to hold it over there too. So I don't know. I'm trying out some different things right now. Just keep it exciting for you. But so anyway, today, like I said, this episode of Rock Legends is talking about. Oh wait, I dropped my phone. This episode of Rock Legends is talking about Prince. Prince. And I wanted to, when I had watched this episode, I wanted to do it with this. I had watched this documentary about Prince. And I was going to take some notes about it. I was going to watch it again, but I didn't get around to it, and it was on the DVR where I lived before, and then I had moved, so I didn't get a chance to watch it again, and I don't know where it is, where I could find it again. So I'm just going to do this episode of Rock Legends. Maybe later I'll be able to see that documentary again, or I'll find something else that's just as good. But that documentary was great, and it was really long, so I learned a lot of stuff about Prince, and I had gained a new appreciation for Prince after watching that documentary. But this episode of Rock Legends, sometimes on this show is a British show, and it's kind of biased, I think, the way they think about some of the things on the show, about their perspective of the artist, which I kind of don't like, but they do have some informative things, and I'm thinking about how it might affect me as I'm watching like these artists that I don't know that much about, with their biased opinions about the artist, how it could be affecting what my knowledge of them, because I know a lot about Prince, and they were kind of being a little biased about certain things, like talking about like unsavory tabloid news things. I don't know, so they might be spinning different other artists that I don't know, that I'm not too familiar with, as I am with Prince, in different ways. And so I don't know, but I'm trying to stick to the facts of it and all of the videos that I'm doing. So with all that being said, I'm just going to get right into the little things that I have. Do I have 10 things today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 things that I found interesting from this episode of Rock Legends today. So Prince, Rock Legends Prince. Remember, before he became Prince, what he would do. So it's my notes say he was a member of Grand Central and 94 East. So before he became Prince, he was a teenager, and he was gaining experience as a performer by doing little different gigs around his hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it was a lot of bands during that time in that area, in the Minnesota area, that were going around and doing performances, and yeah, and it was during that time where like the 70s and the 80s and stuff, where they were like everybody wanted to be in a band and play instruments and stuff like that. But after that time, like it was dying down. So at that point, it was still heavy, like being in a band and stuff like that. Prince, Prince for You. He recorded, wrote, composed, produced, and played every instrument on that album, which is his debut album. He did all of that, and I was I knew that because I had watched other things and saw other things about Prince that he had, and somebody was talking about, I think he was his manager at the time, Prince's manager. He found Prince and he was grooming him and stuff like that, and he went on to become like this big person in the industry. And he was doing an interview, and but before he was a big person, he was working with Prince, developing Prince, and he was saying that he kind of felt like Prince was belittling him, I guess you would call it, shading him now, I guess, I don't know, like, because Prince, he didn't want any input on the in his album, like he wanted to do everything himself, and he was working like night and day. He was working in the studio like night and day to do the album. He wanted to do everything a certain way. He was very controlling creatively. So yeah, creative control over his albums, directing. Yeah, I wrote that down. Creative control. So he did that. I think he did that on like his first 5 albums. He did everything on the albums, and then it began to be too much, and he got some other studio musicians to help him out so he could do stuff faster. But like for his first 5 albums, he did that. He wrote everything, composed everything, produced everything, played every instrument on the album, which is incredible. He's an incredible artist. Yeah. Next thing, creative control over his albums. He was directing things. He released all these movies, 3 movies. He directed Under the Cherry Moon, and he released double albums. So I was just writing down all the different aspects in which he was an innovator on his excuse me, of being a creator. I got tongue tied. He was an innovator in the creative spectrum as an artist, like doing all those things. He was doing different things. They weren't releasing double albums at that time. At one point, like in the documentary, I was like, he was wanting to release a triple album, and they didn't want him to release the triple album. It was too much music, they thought, and he wanted to do it and all this type of stuff. The next thing, the Black Album, was recorded in the 80s and released later. So there was this album, it was called the Black Album, that Prince had created, and he released it, but then he just stopped. He said he didn't want it released anymore. He took it off the shelves, and for some reason he said that he was guided not to release it at that point in time, that it wasn't right or something. This is where the bias was playing into it, because some of the people who were doing the episode, they were like talking about, they were speculating he was doing drugs and all this, he was going crazy, he stopped the album or whatever. So I'm not sure what reason he stopped that album for. Prince, he didn't really do interviews or explain himself or feel the need to justify his creative decisions. So I don't know what happened with that album. He played guitar and wrote on Madonna's Like a Prayer, which I didn't know. And him and Madonna were apparently close, which I didn't know. I remember how she did a tribute to him at one of those awards, and I was like, what is this all about? But him and Madonna were friends, and they were the biggest pop stars during that at the same time, so maybe they had a lot in common. I don't know. And then I had Prince versus Warner Brothers, which the infamous feud between him and his record label. And Prince wanted to release many albums without label's approval. He wanted to release whenever he felt the label felt they needed more time to promote each album. So this is where Prince was very innovative once again during this period in his career, starting after in like the mid 80s and into the 90s and so forth. He was fighting with Warner Brothers, which is his record label, and he wanted creative control. He wanted creative control, and he fought for it. He fought for it, and he fought for it. And this is what has enabled us this day, during this time, to have such a so much control over music, like artists, like they can release things and all this stuff. Prince was a precursor to this. He wanted to release, because he had so much music inside of him, he was creating music all the time. I watched a video where he was doing the Oprah interview, because I started watching all this Prince stuff. He was saying that he wanted to have a song. He wanted to make a song every single day of his life. So he was just constantly creating, and he wanted to get this stuff out. And the record label, they wanted to make money. And so they wouldn't allow him to do what he felt as a creator, even though most times the record label, they have a slight justification, like when they put you in a contract and make you do all this stuff. They're like, oh yeah, we started your career and we gave you all this money to start you off, and we put you with producers and musicians and stuff like that, and to create your sound, and so now you have to pay us back some. But I'm pretty sure that Prince was a little bit less expensive, and because he did everything himself, as far as musically, I don't know if he created all the ideas for his videos and stuff like that, but I know he directed his movies and some of his movies and stuff. So but especially like during that time in his career, by that time in the 80s, like in the late 80s and stuff like that, he should have paid all that stuff back. And he was creating all this music himself, so he should have been able to release it. He had already made them so much money, but they wanted to make money. I don't know. There's two sides of that. Anyway, it was a long story, and I was trying to make these videos quicker, not in depth. And then the last thing that I had put down is he started releasing music in many different ways. So that's once again to his creative innovation. In the ways he started releasing music, he was releasing it in the newspaper. He's one of the first artists to start putting it on the internet. And then later he infamously didn't want it to be on the internet because it was too available. It started becoming too available to people. But yeah, so those were the interesting things that I found out about Prince on that episode of Rock Legends. And that's the end of the video. I want you to visit my blog, corysong.blogspot.com. I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I want you to like this video and comment and share this video on different platforms. And I'll see you later, okay? I'm going to get off of here. Let me do the little outro thing. Do.